Have you ever wondered why some people can drink milk their whole life while others get stomach problems just from a glass? It turns out, the answer is hidden in your DNA and in ancient human history. For about one-third of adult humans, milk remains a lifelong superfood. This isn't the biological norm, it's a high-speed evolutionary hack. The ability to digest milk as an adult is actually one of the fastest evolutionary changes in human history. Today, we're tracing the white revolution of milk. All mammals, including humans, are born with the ability to digest lactose, the sugar found in milk. At the center of this story is lactase, an enzyme produced in the small intestine that breaks down lactose into glucose and galactose. Without this enzyme, undigested lactose becomes food for intestinal bacteria, leading to gas production. Additionally, lactose draws water into the colon through osmosis, leading to diarrhea. The gene responsible for lactase production, LCT, is located on chromosome 2. After weaning, it switches off and most mammals lose the ability to digest lactose. Humans, not always. Some populations developed a genetic mutation in a regulatory region near the LCT gene that keeps the lactase enzyme active into adulthood. This trait is called lactose tolerance or lactase persistence. Scientists have identified several mutations responsible for this ability. Several of them can be found in sub-Saharan Africa, but in Eurasia, two are especially important. 13,910T, common in Europe. 13,915G, common in the Arabian Peninsula. Interestingly, these mutations didn't come from the same origin. They evolved independently. If a person has this mutation on both arms of chromosome 2, they are characterized by a full ability to digest lactose. The technical term for people with two identical gene variants on both chromosomes is homozygotes. If a person has this mutation on only one arm of chromosome 2, they are called heterozygotes, and their ability to digest lactose may be lower and decrease with age. In my article published in the American Journal of Human Biology, I attempted to collect all available information on the occurrence of the 13,910T and 13,915G mutations in populations of Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa. The results of this demanding work show that the highest incidence of lactose persistence in Europe is found in Ireland and Iceland, where approximately 73% of people are homozygotes and approximately 98% of the population possesses at least one variant of the 13,910T mutation. But as you move south and east, that number drops dramatically. The prevalence of the 13,915G variant in Arabia is significantly lower. In Saudi Arabia, approximately 40% of the population are homozygotes, compared to 37% in Yemen. However, in both countries we find approximately 80% of heterozygotes who are able to digest lactose at least partially. So how did these patterns form? One leading theory points to an ancient group called the Yamnaya, pastoralists from the Eurasian steppe around 5,000 years ago. They were cattle herders. Milk was a major part of their diet. And my analysis suggests they may have carried the early version of the European lactose tolerance mutation, because Yamnaya ancestry shows the strongest correlation with the occurrence of the 13,910T mutation in contemporary Europe. The association of this mutation with the Yamnaya cluster may also explain its presence in northwestern India, where it may have been introduced by the migration of ancient Aryans. But here's the twist. Even though Yamnaya herders drank milk, they didn't yet have high levels of lactose tolerance. So how did lactose tolerance spread so rapidly? The massive sweep of lactose tolerance didn't actually explode until the late Bronze Age and Iron Age, 2nd and 1st millennium BC, when Yamnaya pastoralists formed admixed populations with local farmers and hunter-gatherers in Western and Northern Europe. Why was the ability to drink milk such a powerful evolutionary advantage? Although milk can be consumed in the fermented form of cheese or yogurt, where the lactose content is reduced, liquid milk must have offered some valuable advantage as a ready source of nutrients. Scientists point to several main theories. 1. Nutrition and hydration. In times of crop failure or drought, milk was a liquid crop that never failed as long as the animals were alive. This would be indicated by the fact that the strongest selection in Europe occurred in regions characterized by low soil quality or its poor resilience, the ability to regenerate. 2. The vitamin D-calcium connection. In cloudy northern Europe, people couldn't produce enough vitamin D from sunlight. Milk provided the calcium necessary to prevent rickets. 3. The arid environment hypothesis. In the dry steppes, milk wasn't just food, it was a sterile water source. At the same time, it is interesting that the current frequency of lactase persistence mutations is strongly correlated with certain Y haplogroups, male lineages that are passed down from father to son. This suggests that the process of selection may lie in something called the male founder effect. These mutations were spread by dominant males in isolated patrilocal populations that subsequently took advantage of this evolutionary trait and expanded across continents. In Europe, the Y haplogroup most strongly associated with the spread of 13,910T is I1. This is somewhat paradoxical, as this Y haplogroup was originally a male lineage of hunter-gatherers from Scandinavia. However, by the end of the third millennium, a large part of the Yamnaya male lineages in Scandinavia was replaced by I1, which subsequently experienced a major expansion among Germanic-speaking ethnicities. If we add up the frequencies of 6 key Y haplogroups that are predominantly widespread in Western Europe, the correlation with lactose tolerance is almost perfectly linear. These data indicate that selection for lactose tolerance in the eastern half of Europe was, for some reason, significantly weaker than in the West, and the increased incidence of lactose tolerance in Eastern European peoples such as Estonians, Czechs, or Poles must be attributed to medieval admixture of Germanic peoples. Interestingly, the most negative association with lactose tolerance in Europe is found in the trio of Y haplogroups that were typical of the Bronze Age populations of the Western Balkans. Although the inhabitants of the Dinaric Mountains in the former Yugoslavia historically lived by pastoralism and are currently among the largest milk consumers in the world, selection for lactose tolerance has not prevailed among them. A possible explanation may be the tradition of fermenting dairy products, in which the lactose content is reduced or completely eliminated. In the Arabian Peninsula, the story is different. The mutation 13,915G evolved later, around 4,000 years ago, and was associated with the adaptation to drinking camel's milk. It is very strongly correlated with the Natufian ancestry of the prehistoric Levant and with the typically Arabic Y haplogroup J1. This mutation spread in a more localized and focused way. My study also reveals that in Europe, lactose tolerance correlates with taller average height, but in the Near East, it's actually linked to shorter height. This is a paradox because milk, thanks to its content of high-quality protein and calcium, is the strongest stimulator of physical growth in the human diet and should therefore select for taller figures. Why is this so? Because these traits are connected to specific population history, not just diet alone. The severe resource limitations in the deserts of the Arabian Peninsula and adaptation to the hot climate, which favors rather small body sizes with relatively larger body surface, may have influenced the selection of shorter statures. Today, milk remains one of the most influential foods in our diet. It is the legacy of ancient nomads and a testament to how quickly our DNA can change when survival is on the line. Whether you can drink a glass of milk today is the result of a biological gamble taken by your ancestors thousands of years ago. And next time you drink milk, remember you're tasting evolution. If you found this interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe.